The first thing I noticed was the door. It was open. Not wide open, just enough. Enough to be wrong. Corinne never left it open. She was obsessive about locking things. The front door, the fridge, her phone, her mouth. But that day, I came home and the door was breathing, swaying a little with the wind like it was waiting for me. I didn't go inside right away. I stood there with the grocery bag slowly tearing in my hand, staring at the crack like it might speak. It didn't, but she did. From inside, her voice, low, firm, stripped of any warmth it used to carry. Don't come near me. Not shouted, not whispered, delivered, like a line rehearsed too many times. I froze. I was holding bread, almond milk, and a half-rotten memory of the woman I married. Her silhouette stood in the hallway like a statue built from silence. She didn't look at me, didn't move, just stood there in the shadows like she was hiding from the light. You're bleeding, I said. She was. Her wrist, not cut, not sliced, but scraped raw, like she'd been digging at something sharp. There was dirt under her fingernails, and her shirt was inside out. She didn't answer, just said it again. Don't come near me. I dropped the groceries. I think the glass bottle shattered. I don't remember the sound. I just remember the way she flinched at it, like a gun had gone off. I wanted to ask 100 things. What happened? Are you okay? Who did this? Why are your shoes missing? Why are your eyes so wide? But I asked nothing, because in that moment, I knew. I knew something had happened here. Something bad. And not the kind of bad you fix with a conversation. So I did the only thing that made sense. I turned around. I walked out. And I didn't come back. Not that night. Not the next one. And not the week after. But here's the part one still can't explain. The next morning, she called me 47 times. And by the time I answered, she wasn't Corinne anymore. The first call came at 3:17 a.m. I was sleeping in my car, which was stupid. There's a motel 3 blocks from where I parked, but I didn't go there. I didn't want a soft bed. I didn't want room service. I wanted cold leather, the stale smell of takeout containers, and the distant noise of a world I couldn't touch. I wanted to feel the same way I did inside, abandoned, uncertain, and on the edge of something I couldn't name. When the phone rang, I thought it was a mistake. The screen lit up, and for half a second, I felt something in my chest, like maybe everything was okay, like she was calling to say she was sorry, or that she needed me, or that none of what happened in the hallway was real. Maybe she'd been sleepwalking. Maybe she was having some kind of episode. Anything but what it felt like. But the call went silent before I could pick up. Then it rang again, and again, 47 times. No voicemails, no texts. Just the same missed call notification flashing on my screen like an alarm I couldn't turn off. I let them come in waves. 6 in a row. Pause. Then 3 more. A full minute of silence. Then 10 rapid-fire rings like her fingers were slamming the screen in a panic. When I finally picked up on the 48th try, the line was dead silent for a full 7 seconds. I didn't say anything. I just listened. There was a strange static, like wind, or maybe breath, and then a voice. Hers, but not like I remembered it. Slow, shaky, like she was speaking through a locked door. You're not supposed to leave, she said. I felt cold. I was sweating, but I felt cold. You told me not to come near you, I answered. You told me to leave. A pause. Breathing. Then a sound I still don't understand. Like something falling, maybe a chair tipping over or a lamp being smashed. You weren't supposed to actually do it, she whispered. You weren't supposed to listen. The call dropped. I stared at my screen, waiting for it to ring again, but it didn't. Just that awful silence, like the world had unplugged itself from me. I sat in the car until the sun started to rise, watching people jog by with headphones and water bottles like everything was normal. And I thought, did she hurt herself? Did someone else hurt her? Was she trying to protect me? Or scare me? I called her back. No answer. I called her sister. Straight to voicemail. I called her work. They said she hadn't shown up in 2 days. 2 days? That didn't make sense. I saw her just yesterday. Or had I? I drove home. I shouldn't have. But I needed to see. When I got there, the door was closed. And this time, it was locked. And all the windows were blacked out with garbage bags. The first thing that hit me wasn't the visual. It was the smell. Not rot. Not garbage. Something stranger. Sweet. Almost sickly, like melted plastic and old flowers mixed in a blender. I stood on the porch for a full minute just breathing through my mouth, trying to understand what the hell I was looking at. Every single window had been sealed with black trash bags, taped from the inside, like someone was trying to keep the night in and the day out. The windows that once spilled sunlight into her painting studio were now choking in duct tape and cheap plastic. The door still had her name on a little brass plaque she'd made herself, screwed into the wood with exact spacing like she always liked. Corinne Landell. Artist. Nothing else. She used to laugh about it. Not anymore. I knocked. No answer. I called out her name, not yelling, just loud enough that she'd know I wasn't someone random. Nothing. I circled the house, checked the backyard gate. Locked. I don't know what I thought I'd find. Maybe broken glass, signs of a struggle, I don't know. But the house was perfectly still. No lights on. No sound. Like it had been vacuum sealed. I went back to the porch and sat down. Maybe for 5 minutes. Maybe for an hour. Then I noticed the curtain twitch upstairs. The trash bag had slipped slightly, just a sliver, and behind it, just for a second, I saw an eye. Her eye. I swear to God. Hazel green, slightly bloodshot. I stood up fast and said her name, but the curtain snapped shut before I got the last syllable out. I waited, heart racing, hands clenched, trying not to shout. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I reached under the mat. The spare key was still there. Rusted, forgotten, bent at the edge like someone once tried to snap it and gave up. She used to joke it was our secret weapon against loneliness. I hated that phrase. It always made me feel like we were one wrong move from war. Key in hand, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. What hit me next wasn't just the smell, it was the sound, or lack of it. You ever walk into a room that feels like it's holding its breath? That's what it was. The floor creaked like it had aged decades overnight. The kitchen was untouched, plates still in the sink from last week, or last month, who knows. But the living room, that's where it started to feel wrong. All the furniture was covered, not with sheets like in movies, but with black canvas, her old drop cloths from painting. Heavy, stiff, stiffened with dried color and patches of something I didn't want to identify. Her easel was gone. The huge bookshelf where we kept our favorite horror DVDs was stripped bare, the wood warped like it had been soaked and left to dry unevenly. The coffee table had carvings in it, shallow lines scratched into the surface with something sharp. Not words, not symbols, just jagged, obsessive scratches. Hundreds of them. I called out her name again. From upstairs came a sound. Not footsteps. A dragging noise, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. I held my breath and listened. Silence. Then, faintly, music. One note, repeating, slow and broken like an old tape stuck in a loop. I should have left, but I didn't. Instead, I climbed the stairs. Halfway up, I smelled that sweetness again, stronger now, mixed with something metallic underneath. My knees felt like they were trying to escape the rest of me. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched into darkness. The only light came from under the bedroom door. I moved toward it slowly, each step creaking louder than the last. My hand reached for the knob. Then she spoke. Clear, cold, right on the other side. You said you'd never come back. I froze. Not because she scared me. Because her voice wasn't scared of me. My hand stayed frozen on the knob for what felt like hours, and I couldn't bring myself to speak. Her voice had always been soft, but this time, it felt like it came from inside the walls. Too calm, too rehearsed. Like she'd been waiting for me to come back. Not because she missed me, but because it was part of some plan I was never supposed to understand. I wanted to say her name, to ask her what the hell was going on, but instead I just stood there, breathing shallow, like a kid outside the principal's office, about to be told something that changes everything. Then the knob turned in my hand. Not by me. She was on the other side, turning it toward me, slowly, deliberately, like she wanted me to feel every notch in the mechanism click before it gave way. I pulled my hand back like it was burning. The door didn't open. It just stopped. A beat of silence passed, and then I heard her walk away. Not fast, not stomping, just that same dragging sound again, the same rhythmic pull across the floor like she was moving something heavy with her. That was the moment I knew she wasn't alone. I pushed the door open, not because I wanted to, but because if I didn't do something, I was going to collapse right there in the hallway. The room was dark, except for a flickering TV screen playing static, and that same note from earlier was still playing somewhere deeper in the house. It wasn't music. It was mechanical, almost like a child's music box, slowed down and cracked. I scanned the room. The bed was stripped. The mattress pushed against the wall. The closet doors had been removed and stacked in the corner, their hinges broken like they'd been ripped out in a hurry. But it was what was on the walls that made me sit down. Photos. Hundreds of them. Some printed, some Polaroid, some ripped from sketchbooks. All of me. Some I recognized. Vacation shots, birthdays, me sleeping on the couch. But most I'd never seen before. Blurry images of me walking to my car. Me sitting alone at a cafe. Me at the pharmacy, squinting at labels. Me in the shower, taken from behind the fog glass. Images no one should have had. Images she couldn't have taken unless she'd been following me for months. Pinned next to them were things I hadn't seen in years. Receipts, grocery lists, napkins with my handwriting on them. A ripped piece of a hoodie I'd thrown away in college. The label from my allergy meds. A pair of my socks, nailed to the wall through the heels. It was like a shrine, but not the loving kind. This wasn't grief. It was obsession, and it didn't look like it was hers. It looked like someone else had built it for her. Or with her. I backed away, trying not to step on anything, but my foot hit a box. It slid open just enough for me to see what was inside. A dead phone. Mine. One I'd lost a year ago and assumed was gone for good. Beneath it were my old keys. My old student ID. Even the half of a necklace I thought I lost on our anniversary trip in Maine. All mine. All stored like evidence. That's when I heard it again. Her voice, from somewhere else in the house, not in the bedroom this time. But distorted, like it was being played through a speaker. Like a recording. Repeating the same thing, over and over. Don't come near me. Don't come near me. Don't come near me. Then a second voice joined it. Low. Male. Not mine. And definitely not hers. It said, he's already inside. I didn't move. I couldn't. That voice, whoever it was, didn't just say the words, it declared them. As if I was part of some script already written, and he was just reading out loud what was always meant to happen. He's already inside. The words vibrated through the walls like they'd been carved into the wood itself. My heart was pounding so loud I could feel it in my gums. I turned slowly, scanning the bedroom one more time, half expecting someone to come lunging from the shadows or out of the closet, but there was no one there. Just the photos, the strings, the smell, the faint mechanical whine of that broken music box loop now echoing from the vents. I stepped into the hallway, trying to follow the sound of the voice, but the layout of the house felt wrong. The walls seemed longer, the corners tighter. The light bulbs flickered as if they were pulsing with breath, and the air had that static charge, like the kind you feel before a thunderstorm or a blackout. It was familiar, but twisted. I reached the top of the stairs and looked down. The living room was dark. The furniture still covered. But now there was something else. A figure, standing in the center of the room, facing away from me. I didn't say anything. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid that if I acknowledged it, it would become real. It wasn't Corinne. I knew that instantly. The posture was wrong. Too still, too rigid, like the bones were positioned incorrectly beneath the skin. The head tilted slightly as if listening, but the body didn't sway or move. Just frozen in attention. The voice came again, not from the figure, but from somewhere behind me now, whispering through the vents, louder than before, layered with static and something else, a faint crackle of electricity or fire. He's already inside. He's already inside. I took a step back, and the floorboard under me groaned louder than it should have. That was enough. The figure below turned around, not fast, not slow, but with unnatural precision. No hesitation. Just a perfect, quiet rotation until it faced me. I saw the face for half a second before the lights cut out. It was wearing mine. Not exactly, not a mask or a clone, but something trying to be me. Eyes too wide, jaw too long, the skin loose around the cheekbones like it didn't quite fit the skull beneath. And the worst part? It smiled, not with recognition, but with relief, as if it had been waiting for this moment. I ran, back into the hallway, into the guest room we never finished renovating, slammed the door, and locked it behind me. The lock was old and barely held, but it was all I had. I pressed my ear to the wood, expecting footsteps, expecting screams or thuds or laughter. But I heard nothing. Just the hum of the music box, the static voice now whispering in a loop, and one more sound, barely audible beneath it all. Scratching. Not at the door. Not at the window. Inside the walls. I turned around, and that's when I saw it. The writing. It wasn't just on the furniture. It was everywhere. Scratched into the drywall, drawn in red ink on the baseboards, carved into the wood of the windowsill like confessionals from a prisoner who knew no one was coming to save them. All the same sentence, over and over. Don't come near me. Don't come near me. Don't come near me. Some written backwards, some upside down, and some written in my handwriting. I don't remember doing it, but my hand started shaking like it did. That's when my phone buzzed. One notification. New voicemail. It was from my number, and it was 38 minutes long. I didn't want to press play. I just stared at the screen, thumb hovering over the notification like it might burn me. A 38-minute voicemail. From my own number. No transcription available. That was the most unsettling part. Usually my phone at least tried to give a preview, some kind of auto-text mess. But this one was just blank. I waited, like an idiot, as if someone might call to explain what it was, or maybe I'd wake up in the car again, and this whole thing would vanish into a sleep-deprived hallucination. But the scratching in the wall hadn't stopped. The music box was still humming its broken little tune, and the air in the room was still too cold for late August. So I hit play. The first 10 seconds were silence, or what I thought was silence. When I turned up the volume, I could hear breathing mine. It was unmistakably mine. Not steady, shaky, almost like I was hiding. I could hear fabric moving, my heartbeat loud through the mic, like the phone had been pressed against my chest. And then a voice. At first, I thought it was Corinne. But no, it was me, talking to someone, whispering. I know it's not real, I said. I know it's not her, but it wears her face, and it waits for me to forget. There was a pause, then footsteps, wet ones, slapping lightly against tile. I heard a door creak open. I heard humming, my humming, the same melody from the music box, off-key, dragging, like I was trying to lull myself into something darker. She was never afraid of the dark, my voice continued. But she started sleeping with the lights on after the mirror cracked. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember any of it. My spine was stiff against the wall as I held the phone, staring into the corner of the guest room like it might split open. The recording continued. Shuffling. The sound of paper being torn. Then something heavy being dragged across a wooden floor. The exact same sound I heard from upstairs earlier. I wasn't just listening to a voicemail. I was listening to a moment I hadn't lived yet. And then came Corinne's voice. But it wasn't from a distance this time. It was close, as if she was speaking directly into the phone, inches from the mic. It's not about what I did, she said. It's about what you forgot. The recording glitched. There were sharp distortions, audio tearing like metal being chewed. I flinched and yanked the phone from my ear. The app froze, crashed. When I reopened it, the voicemail was gone. Completely. No trace. Not in deleted messages. Not in storage. Like it had never existed. The scratching in the wall stopped. I turned slowly. The drywall behind me had split, just slightly, like pressure had been building from the inside. A crack ran from the floor to the window, not natural, not part of any foundation issue I'd ever seen. And from that crack, something moved, just beneath the surface. A shape, small at first, then larger, pressing against the wall like it was trying to birth itself through the plaster. My body locked. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't respond. The air felt heavier with each breath. Then came the whisper again. Not from the voicemail. Not from the wall. From inside my head. You're not here by accident, Ellis. You brought it with you. I blinked hard. And suddenly, I was no longer in the guest room. I was in the basement. Only, we never had a basement. But I was there. And the door behind me was gone. I don't remember how I got there. 1 second, I was in the guest room, staring at a crack in the drywall. And the next, I was in complete blackness, standing on cold stone, the air around me so still it felt like I had stepped out of time. There was no door behind me, no window, just the sound of my own breath bouncing off unseen walls. I stood perfectly still, hands slightly raised like I was afraid to touch anything, but the walls touched me first. Not literally, not at first, but I could feel the room pressing inward. No movement, just pressure. Like the space around me was shrinking cell by cell, testing my patience. I reached out and touched stone. Damp. Old. Wrong. We never had a basement. I'd lived in that house for 6 years, and there was no door, no trapdoor, no crawl space. Corinne and I had joked about how this place was too boring to be haunted. Now I was in a room that shouldn't exist, and every instinct I had was screaming that this was the center of everything. I took a step forward. The ground beneath me wasn't level. It sloped slightly downward, a subtle incline that forced my body to lean as I walked. I followed the direction of the slope, unsure whether I was being pulled or simply falling willingly into whatever this was. Eventually, the darkness gave way to a faint, reddish light. Not from a bulb, from behind the walls. Like the stone itself was glowing with something internal, some slow, breathing warmth that had nothing to do with electricity. The light pulsed, and with every pulse, I heard a faint voice. Two voices, layered and asynchronous, overlapping but never in harmony. The first voice was mine. The second was Corinne's. But they weren't speaking to each other. They were reciting something, over and over, in a loop. Not chanting, not cult-like. More like repeating a memory that didn't belong to either of us. It was a conversation I'd never had, but it was in my voice. And I recognized every sentence, even though I couldn't predict what came next. You said you'd never look under the floor. I didn't. I swear. Then why do you know what I buried? I don't. But you dreamed it. The light intensified. I turned a corner in the tunnel. I had stopped thinking of it as a basement and entered a wider chamber. The walls here were etched, hundreds of tiny grooves, like writing, but the language was unknown. Not gibberish, not symbols. A rhythm of lines and angles that looked like they had been scratched by desperate fingers, not tools. I moved my hand across one, and instantly, my vision doubled. I saw flashes, Corinne in the bathroom mirror, whispering to something that wasn't there. Corinne in the attic, painting over a canvas that looked exactly like my face, but smiling in a way I never had. Corinne sleeping on the ceiling, eyes open, mouth stitched shut. Then I heard her scream. Not a long scream. Not terrified. A short, clipped, animal sound, filled with rage and confusion. It echoed through the tunnel, bounced between the walls, and hit my chest like a bullet made of air. I ran. I don't remember choosing to run. I just did. The light behind the walls pulsed faster now, casting shifting shadows that seemed to chase me as I sprinted deeper, always deeper, until I reached a door. A wooden door, painted red. Familiar. It was our front door. The same one from the house. The one with the little brass plaque that said Corinne Landell. Artist. Nothing else. Only now, the plaque had changed. It still had her name, but underneath it said, "This room belongs to the one who remembers." I stood there, shaking. I didn't want to open it. My hand reached for the knob anyway, slow, involuntary, like it had made the decision before my brain had caught up. And just as I touched it, the door opened on its own. What I saw inside, I'll never forget it, because it was our living room. But we weren't alone. The moment the door swung open, I braced for something inhuman. A trick. A copy of a memory dressed in my wife's skin. I expected horror. I expected screams, or blood, or worse, silence. But what I saw instead stopped me cold. It was our living room. Before the trash bags. Before the madness. Before the tension crept in like mold and ruined everything. Sunlight poured in through the windows. The vanilla-scented candle flickered peacefully on the shelf. And there was Corinne, sitting on the couch with her legs tucked under her, wearing the hoodie I thought she'd thrown out last winter. She looked up at me with those hazel green eyes, clear and human, and smiled. Not that eerie, stretched grin I saw in the bedroom days ago. This smile was tired, honest, real. I stepped inside slowly, half expecting the illusion to collapse. But the floor was solid. The air smelled like cinnamon and dust. No static, no voices, just the muffled hum of the world beyond the windows, the way it used to sound before everything fell apart. "I've been waiting for you to come back," she said softly, like I'd just stepped out for groceries and was taking too long. I didn't know what to say. Part of me still thought I was dreaming, or dead, or locked inside some loop I couldn't escape. But she kept smiling. Her hands were folded in her lap. No wounds. No madness in her eyes. "I saw things," I finally said. "Things I don't understand." "I know," she nodded. "So did I?" "For a long time." She stood and walked toward me slowly, like she was afraid I'd vanish. There were tears in her eyes now, real ones. Whatever was in this house, it fed on forgetting, on silence. The more we ignored each other, the more it grew. The more we left things unsaid, the deeper it dug into us. I swallowed hard. "I thought you didn't want me anymore." She reached out, touching my face with the back of her hand, so gently I almost flinched. I didn't know how to ask for help. And you didn't know how to stay when I pushed. The tears finally came then, mine. Hot and quiet. All the fear, the shame, the guilt crashing over me in one tidal wave. I had wanted to believe she was the villain, that something had broken her, and I was just the collateral. But maybe we'd both been carrying something. Something invisible and ancient that lived between words left unsaid and wounds never acknowledged. I don't know how to fix this, I whispered. You don't have to, she said. Just stay. And remember, that's enough. The walls around us began to shift subtly, like they were exhaling. The cracks sealed themselves. The light softened. I could feel warmth returning to the air, a kind of weight lifting off my chest that I hadn't even realized was crushing me until it was gone. She took my hand, and we sat, just sat, in silence. Not haunted, not hunted, just two people who had nearly lost each other to something too big to name, and found their way back by remembering who they really were beneath the fear. Days passed. We talked. We cleaned. The photos came down. The music box stopped on its own one night and never played again. The trash bags were gone by morning. The crack in the wall sealed with one final breath of the house. We didn't try to explain it. Some things don't want to be explained. They just want to be seen, acknowledged, faced. We lit the vanilla candle again every night after dinner. And sometimes we say nothing at all. But we're here, together, alive. And for the first time in a long time, we're not afraid anymore.